The Galactic Empire announced the capture with the same theatrical pride usually reserved for unveiling a new superweapon. Across 1,000 star systems, holoscreens flickered to life to show two humans, twins, 21 years old, sitting calmly in containment chairs as if waiting for a delayed bus. The alien anchor, a tall insectoid with wings that rustled every time he felt superior, proclaimed with relish that the fragile Earth species has finally been humbled. He spoke with the smug authority of someone who had never actually met a human, but felt confident judging them based on outdated documentaries and one disastrous diplomatic dinner. Mia Vega lifted her eyes toward the nearest camera, not with fear but with mild boredom, as though the lighting wasn't flattering. Jace, her brother, leaned back with the lazy confidence of someone who knew he was supposed to look intimidated, but simply couldn't commit to the role. The twins shared a glance, silent, amused, conspiratorial. Their wrists were bound, their containment field hummed, but neither seemed interested in acknowledging the drama the Empire desperately wanted from them. A guard approached, a bulky reptilian brute whose armor clanked with every step. "Human units will remain still," he growled, trying to sound imposing. Mia smiled with polite warmth that made him instinctively step back. "Oh, absolutely," she said. "We wouldn't dream of causing trouble. You're doing a great job, really." The guard blinked, uncertain whether she was complimenting him or insulting him. Humans were hard to categorize. Their words carried strange emotional layers that alien translators always struggled with. Sarcasm, especially, was treated like dark magic by most species. "Do you require nourishment?" the guard asked, regaining composure. Jace grinned. "You got chips?" The guard, unfamiliar with Earth snacks, simply barked. Silence. Jace raised his eyebrows at his sister. He didn't say no. The containment room was stark, metallic, humming with energy from the Empire's power grid. Yet there was something almost cozy about the way the twins behaved inside it, as if they were accustomed to environments that demanded resilience. And they were. Because back on Earth, they belonged to someone the Empire had studied, underestimated, and then politely dismissed as not a significant threat. They would regret that sooner than they imagined. Interrogation began within the hour. A thin avian scholar fluttered in nervously, holding a datapad larger than his torso. He adjusted his spectacles, a purely decorative fashion choice inherited from studying humans for centuries, and peered at the twins. "State your identities for the record." "Mia," she said. Annoyed but cooperative. "Jace," he added. "Hungry." The scholar exhaled slowly, reshaping his feathers in frustration. "Your mother. Please describe her." Jace and Mia exchanged a look that would have warned any human investigator to step back and reconsider their life choices. But aliens were still learning the subtleties of those cues. Mia answered gently. "She's incredible." Jace nodded. "Some would say terrifying. Depends on if she likes you." The scholar frowned. "Is she a military officer?" Mia's smile brightened. "You could say that." The twins' casual tone unsettled the avian. He scribbled notes rapidly. "Does she know you've been captured?" "Oh yes," Mia replied softly. "And what will she do?" Jace leaned forward just enough to make the scholar's wings flutter. "She'll come." The scholar paused. "Come? Alone?" Jace shrugged. "She has hobbies. One of them is walking into enemy territory without asking permission." The scholar backed away in alarm, misinterpreting the casual confidence for a threat. Mia tried to reassure him. "Don't worry. She only gets upset if someone hurts us. And you haven't, right?" "Of course not." He blurted. "Great," Mia said. "You're safe then." Up on the command deck, the Empire's high leadership reviewed the interrogation feed. They laughed. They saw two harmless, soft-skinned creatures displaying unnecessary confidence. Their cultural database painted humans as emotional, volatile, and frequently distracted by consumer sales events and sports tournaments. A species that consumed entertainment filled with explosions, yet barely survived their own microwaved meals. "They pose no threat," declared Admiral Khrath, his mandibles clicking with certainty. Earth has no real military capability. Their ships are outdated. Their weapons are primitive. And they panic when their coffee machine breaks. Another officer added, according to our Earth surveillance, their most intense conflict recently was something called baseball playoffs. The room chuckled. Meanwhile, in the containment chamber, Jace quietly tested the lock's resistance by shifting his wrists. Not to escape, yet, but simply to see how much effort breaking out would require if things got boring. Mia observed the paneling of the wall, noting the seams of the energy conduits. The twins weren't trained soldiers, but they'd grown up around someone who had never once lost a battle. Some lessons simply seeped into a child's bones. Hours later, Earth received the news of the capture. The United Terran Council was in the middle of discussing budget reports when the alert appeared. The room fell silent. "They took whose children?" asked the commander, pale with dread. A young officer swallowed. "General Aurelia Vega's." Someone dropped their tablet. Someone else muttered a prayer. The council chamber collectively remembered stories. Stories whispered with admiration, fear, and gratitude. Tales of a calm, polite woman who dismantled alien fleets with surgical precision, and an unervingly gentle smile. A tactician whose enemies never saw her coming until their warships were already drifting in pieces. "Have we contacted her?" the commander asked. The officer nodded. "She said only one thing." The room held its breath. She said, "I'm on my way." Back on the Empire flagship, the twins waited. Not anxiously. Not desperately. Just patiently. Like people who knew the ending of a story others had mistaken for the beginning. A guard passed their cell and saw Mia sitting cross-legged, eyes closed, appearing peaceful. "Human unit," he barked. "Cease whatever ritual that is." She opened one eye. "It's called breathing." He stiffened. "Do not attempt mind control." Jace laughed so hard he nearly slipped off his chair. Later, while the ship drifted through a quiet sector, the twins heard a faint tremor through the hull, too subtle for alien ears. Mia straightened slowly. Jace looked at her, instinctively sensing the shift. "She's close," Mia whispered. Before the guard could ask what she meant, the lights flickered once, twice, then steadied. But the atmosphere changed. Something unseen, something ancient and instinctual, crept across the metal corridors. A sensation alien genomes had never evolved words for, but recognized all the same. The sensation of being hunted. On the command deck, alarms chimed softly, not loud enough for panic, but enough to trigger curiosity. A technician murmured, "Strange. Something just entered sensor range, but I can't classify it." Admiral Khrath leaned forward, amused. "A lone Earthship, I assume. Come to negotiate." The technicians shook their head. "It's small. And silent. No weapon signatures. No engine trail." "Then it's nothing," the Admiral scoffed. But every instinct in the technician's body said otherwise. They whispered, "Sir, the readings feel like..." "Like what?" "Like it's watching us." Down in the containment room, Mia felt a warmth rise through her chest. Not fear. Not hope. Certainty. Jace whispered, "She found us fast." Mia smiled gently. "She always does." Outside, the stars around the Empire flagship dimmed as an unseen shape eclipsed them. Not large, but impossibly precise, as if space itself bowed around it. Mia tilted her head, listening to some distant echo only she and her brother could interpret. "She's here," she murmured. The lights flickered again. This time, they didn't come back on. Darkness rolled through the Empire flagship not like a malfunction, but like a decision, deliberate and cold. For a heartbeat the ship breathed in silence, metal remembering a sensation older than circuitry, fear. Then dim emergency lines flickered to life, painting the corridors in blood-red strokes. The twins sat straight in their chairs, illuminated by the low crimson glow, watching the room reshape itself into a stage they knew well. This was the moment before a storm broke. They had lived in the shadow of that storm their entire lives. A low hum vibrated through the hull, a frequency too soft for alien sensors but achingly familiar to Mia. She exhaled, slow and steady. She's docking, she whispered. Jace's lips quirked upward. Fastest she's ever been. The guard nearest them trembled visibly despite his bulky frame. The translator chip detected his heartbeat accelerating at a pace that suggested panic in every species that still had ancestors who hid from predators in caves. The command deck erupted with confused shouting. Dozens of consoles rebooted simultaneously, screens trying and failing to refresh their data streams. Identify the intruding vessel. Admiral Khrath shouted, but his voice cracked, mandibles jittering. Tex tried to obey, but the sensors registered only a blank space, an outline of something that shouldn't exist, a ship without heat, without trace, without a signature to classify it among known threats. It was as though the void itself had decided to take shape. A soft chime rang out on every deck. Not a warning siren. A polite chime. One the ship had never been programmed to produce. Then her voice drifted through the intercom like silk drawn over steel. "Good evening," General Aurelia Vega said. "I believe you have my children." Her voice possessed a warmth that made every alien on the flagship go still, a warmth that felt wrong inside a battlefield environment. Politeness, in human mouths, carried dangers other species never fully understood. Admiral Khrath straightened himself and snapped. "Human vessel, you are trespassing." Aurelia cut him off gently. "Admiral, you are holding my twins without consent. I'm sure you understand why I'm calling." Her tone was conversational, almost friendly, and that unsettled the entire bridge more than any shouted threat could have. The Admiral tried to regain control. "Release the comms. Block the intrusion. Activate perimeter cannons." But none of those commands registered. The ship denied every order with polite denial messages. A new window opened across the Admiral's main display. A single sentence appeared. "Please wait. A human is speaking." The crew recoiled. Jace, watching the feed on a small flickering panel in his containment cell, laughed softly. "Classic Mom." Mia stretched her arms against the restraints, testing their strength. "She's not even angry yet," she murmured. "This is her being patient." Aurelia's hologram flickered into existence above the command deck, life-sized, crisp, centered. She wore dark tactical fabric laced with subtle adaptive tech. Her posture relaxed as though she stood in her own living room. Her eyes, calm and assessing, scanned the room. She smiled, polite and devastating. "Thank you for taking my call," she said. "I know the galaxy is busy." The Admiral swallowed, the first thread of dread stitching itself into his spine. "General Vega, Earth is a minor species. You are in no position." "Admiral," she interrupted softly. "I'm not here to negotiate status. I'm here for my children." Her voice dipped into something quieter, heavier, like the echo before an avalanche. "I will ask once. Return them." The bridge fell silent except for the faint hum of systems rediscovering their fear. One officer tried to signal the security wing, but found her comm panel frozen on a single looping message. "Negotiation mode engaged." She looked at the Admiral, her feathers trembling. "Sir, the ship is cooperating with her." "Impossible!" He snapped, but even as he spoke, a new scan fed onto the primary screen. The Empire's defensive grid, 30 warships surrounding the flagship, showed errors cascading through their interfaces. Energy readings flickered. Engines hesitated. Shields faltered like stumbling breaths. Aurelia tilted her head as if listening to a distant signal only she could hear. "Your fleet is struggling with synchronization issues," she said lightly. "You should update your software. It's terribly vulnerable." The Admiral stiffened. "What have you done?" "Oh, nothing yet," she answered pleasantly. "You still have a chance to choose the peaceful option." In the containment cell, the guard clutched his plasma rifle, hands slick with sweat. Mia offered him a sympathetic smile. "It's okay. She won't hurt you unless you've hurt us." The guard stammered. I have not harmed you, human unit." "Then you'll be fine," she said gently. "We're very reasonable people." Jace leaned forward as the floor beneath their feet vibrated. "She's boarding." The guard panicked, pointing his weapon at the door. If she enters, I will. Hide, Mia offered kindly. He didn't deny it. Metal groaned down the hall, the kind of groan that belonged to breached airlocks and forced entries. But this one sounded too elegant, too precise. Aurelia didn't break doors. She asked them to open. And they obeyed. On the command deck, the lights shifted from red to an unsettling white glow, as though the ship had been absorbed into a sterile lab environment. Aurelia's hologram smiled wider. Your ship is attempting to welcome me aboard. Good manners are rare these days. The Admiral barked orders, but the ship paid him no mind. Even the air recycling vents adjusted to match the oxygen blend suitable for humans, a small detail that should have been impossible without manual override. Aurelia stepped onto the bridge in person a moment later, her boots soundless, her presence consuming the entire room with an intensity too controlled to be anything but lethal. She folded her hands behind her back, assessing each officer with quiet, measured focus. She didn't draw a weapon. She didn't need one. Where are my twins? She asked, her voice low enough to make every alien stiffen. The Admiral attempted bravado. They are prisoners of the Empire. We will not. Aurelia raised one eyebrow. It was enough. Consoles around the bridge shut down one by one, screens dipping into black. An eerie silence filled the deck. I asked politely, she said. I prefer polite. Her steps across the deck were slow, deliberate, predatory in a way most aliens had no evolutionary defense for. Politeness combined with confidence had always confused species that mistook calmness for weakness. Her presence whispered of the violence she kept sheathed behind restraint. Before the Admiral could reply, another officer shouted, General, the external fleet is going dark. All ships simultaneously. Something is overriding their cores. Aurelia sighed softly, as though inconvenienced. Yes. That will continue until I retrieve my children. The Admiral's courage crumpled. You can't command our systems. Your systems. Aurelia repeated, amused. You misunderstand. I don't command them. She tapped her wrist device, and every screen lit up with cascading code. They volunteered. Gasps filled the bridge. One officer dropped to his knees, overwhelmed by the realization that their empire, their technology, their entire war machine had been quietly infiltrated by a species they'd mocked for centuries. Aurelia looked toward the containment wing, as though she could see through every wall. Bring them to me, she said simply. No one moved. She exhaled, almost disappointed. Very well, she murmured. I'll get them myself. The lights flickered once more. And somewhere deep inside the ship, a door began to open. The door that began to open was not forced, shattered, or cut. None of the things alien militaries expected from a boarding attempt. It simply parted as though the ship itself bowed out of the way. The corridor beyond it filled with a dim white glow, neither warm nor cold, but precise, like the sterilized light of an operating room. The guard outside the twins' cell trembled so violently, his rifle rattled against the floor. He looked at Mia and Jace with the haunted expression of a soldier who realizes the enemy he thought he understood was something far older, far more dangerous, and far less forgiving than anticipated. Aurelia walked down the hallway with the calm gait of someone strolling toward a morning briefing, rather than into the core of an enemy warship. She didn't hurry. She didn't posture. Her movements were deliberate and tranquil, each step soft enough that the metal seemed relieved to bear her weight. She passed two guards who instinctively stepped back, their instincts screaming retreat long before their minds formed the thought. She didn't even look at them, yet they froze, unwilling to breathe too loudly in her presence. Lights flickered overhead as though the ship were trying to signal something to her, seeking acknowledgement. She reached a junction where holographic signs flickered in confusion, switching between alien script and English. Aurelia glanced at the nearest panel and murmured, "Thank you." The lights steadied instantly, adjusting to guide her toward the containment wing. Inside the cell, Mia felt the change in the air pressure, subtle but familiar, like the atmosphere exhaled in relief. Jace's grin stretched slow and wolfish. "She's in," he whispered. The guard stumbled backward until he hit the wall, clawed hands shaking. "Your mother is a He could not find a word. Mia supplied one gently. Human. His eyes widened further. The hallway brightened as Aurelia approached, her silhouette finally visible through the transparent cell door. The guard shrieked and scrambled, dropping his weapon entirely. Aurelia regarded him with the cool, professional detachment of someone evaluating a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. She didn't need to threaten him. He had already surrendered. The door unlocked itself before she touched it, sliding open with respectful silence. Aurelia stepped inside and finally allowed her composure to soften, just a fraction. Mia rose first, shoulders easing. Jace followed, his confidence folding into relief. Aurelia touched their faces lightly, her voice a whisper that carried the weight of unspoken terror for anyone not her child. Are you hurt? No, Mia said. Just bored, Jace added. Aurelia closed her eyes for a moment, absorbing their presence, anchoring herself. Then she opened them again, and the steel returned beneath the softness. Good, she said. We can proceed. The twins exchanged a look. Proceed could mean anything. Proceed could mean negotiation. Proceed could mean destruction. With Aurelia Vega, both were equally plausible. The intercom crackled as Admiral KHR-80H's panicked voice filled the corridor. Human General. I demand that you stop your interference. You have no authority here. Aurelia stepped toward the nearest wall panel. Her reflection shimmered across the polished surface, steady and unblinking. Admiral, authority is an interesting concept. She tapped her wrist lightly. The entire corridor lit up with cascading code, lines of human programming weaving themselves through alien systems like roots cracking stone. Yours has never applied to me. The Admiral sputtered. This is impossible. We built these ships. Yes, Aurelia replied, her tone almost apologetic. But you connected them to a network we designed. The silence that followed carried the density of a collapsing star. Jace let out a low whistle. You're telling them about Echo Heart? Only what they need to understand, Aurelia answered. Fear without context is wasted. The Admiral's voice returned, shriller. Echo Heart is a myth. A human rumor. Aurelia tilted her head. You're standing inside it, Admiral. On the command deck, every officer stared at screens now brimming with intricate diagrams of their own fleet, mapped, interpreted, and effortlessly overridden by human algorithms. The realization hit like gravity doubling. They weren't facing an intruder. They were standing in a trap laid long before they had even noticed the hunter. Back near the containment cell, the hallway lights dimmed and brightened in a slow rhythmic pattern, as if syncing with Aurelia's breathing. Mia stepped beside her mother, matching her pace as they began walking toward the central lift. Jace followed with easy confidence, though the tension in his shoulders revealed the strain of the last hours. Aurelia noticed. You both handled yourselves well, she murmured. Next time, send a message. Jace smirked. Our comms were jammed. Aurelia arched an eyebrow. And you could not unjam them? We were pacing ourselves, Mia said dryly. Aurelia almost smiled. They reached the lift, which opened without prompt. When Aurelia stepped inside, the walls shimmered to display the ship's internal map. Every passageway glowed in response to her presence, showing cleared routes, disabled weapons, and deactivated guard patrols. The ship was no longer resisting her. It was accommodating her. The lift rose, humming with mechanical unease, as if aware that carrying her was a privilege bordering on a confession of weakness. The doors parted onto the upper hall that led directly to the command deck. Armed soldiers stood lined along the walls, weapons trembling in uncertain hands. Aurelia didn't slow. The first soldier attempted bravery. Stop! You cannot enter the command. His weapon powered down mid-sentence. The lights overhead shifted into a pale blue, casting Aurelia's face in gentle illumination. She gave him a serene nod. Thank you for standing guard. You may rest now. He dropped to his knees, not from force but from relief. She continued forward. The twins walked behind her, silent not from fear but from awe, watching the subtle orchestration of domination carried out with nothing but presence and precision. Aurelia's power wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. It was the kind of power that rewrote environments simply by existing inside them. As they reached the final door, it slid open so quickly it seemed afraid to keep her waiting. The command deck fell into stunned silence. Every officer turned toward her, frozen in disbelief. Admiral KHR-88's mandibles hung open. Aurelia stepped inside with the poise of someone entering a diplomatic gala. "Admiral," she said softly, "thank you for your patience." He pointed a shaking claw at her. What do you want?" Aurelia looked at her twins, then back at him. The calm in her expression deepened into something colder, heavier, unshakably certain. "This is no longer about what I want," she said. "It's about what humanity prepared you for." The Admiral blinked. "Prepared us?" Aurelia raised her wrist. Every ship in the surrounding fleet went silent at once. "Echo Heart has awakened," she whispered. "And now the galaxy will learn why." The screens around them flared white. The white flare on every screen was not blinding but cleansing, a light without heat that seemed to wash the command deck in a sterile glow. Officers shielded their eyes, not because it harmed them, but because something in their instincts recoiled from witnessing their own systems surrender. When the brightness softened, the screens revealed a new interface, smooth, elegant, unmistakably human in its symmetry. The Empire's proud fleet no longer displayed alien glyphs. Instead, every vessel rotated in a synchronized formation that none of their officers had programmed. Aurelia watched the shifting holograms with measured calm. She spoke quietly, as though addressing a classroom rather than the beating heart of an enemy armada. "Your ships are now functioning on Echo Heart Protocol," she said. "They will not fire without human authorization. They will not move without my direction. They will not breathe without consent." Her voice carried no triumph, only finality. The tone of someone stating a truth gravity itself would not argue. Admiral KHR-ATH staggered back, disbelief fraying his composure. "You cannot. This is impossible. Humans do not possess the technology. You are a minor species." Aurelia's gaze cut through the sentence. "Minor on your maps," she said. "Not in intent." The Admiral opened and closed his mandibles helplessly, as though searching for any thread of reason left in a universe that suddenly felt rewritten. Officers glanced at one another, silently begging someone to act, to resist, to restore the order they had sworn to protect. But their consoles no longer recognized them. Their weapons no longer belonged to them. Their fleet no longer listened. Mia stepped forward, her eyes reflecting the white glow of the new interface, her expression oddly gentle. "Mom doesn't break things first," she said. "She gives people a chance." Jace added, "They usually waste it." One young alien officer, barely out of her species' equivalent of academy training, lifted trembling hands. "General Vega," she whispered, "if you control our entire defense grid, what happens now? Will you destroy us?" Aurelia turned toward her slowly. The officer flinched but did not look away. Something in Aurelia softened in response to that tiny flicker of courage. "No," she said. "Destruction is easy. Too easy. And it teaches nothing." Admiral KHR-ATH spat in frustration. "Then what do you want? Tribute? Territory? A treaty written in your terms." Aurelia stepped closer, her presence quiet but immense. "I want you to understand the consequences of underestimating a species that survives by adaptation. You mistook kindness for frailty, cooperation for submission, curiosity for ignorance." She glanced briefly at Mia and Jace. "You threaten what I love. And humanity responds to danger differently than your archives suggest." The Admiral growled. "You think you can frighten an empire with a single trick?" Aurelia flashed him the smallest hint of a smile. "Oh, Admiral. This isn't a trick. This is preparation." Suddenly the holographic display zoomed outward, showing not just the Empire's fleet, but the entire surrounding sector. The alien officers gasped as lines of dormant systems lit up, long-range weapons, relay nodes, forgotten outposts, each one now pulsing in soft human blue. The Empire hadn't merely lost control of their flagship. They had lost control of everything connected to their network. Mia whispered, "You sync the outer grid too?" Aurelia replied, "Of course. What mother walks into danger without clearing the exit routes?" The Admiral's breathing grew ragged. How long have you been infiltrating our systems?" Aurelia considered him for a moment, as if deciding whether honesty was cruelty. "Decades," she said at last. "Humanity learns by pattern. We studied yours. We tested. We waited. Echoheart grew in your shadow, unseen because you never believed we could hide anything worth fearing." Jace looked around the bridge, studying the trembling crew. Something softened in him. Pity, or something close to it. "Mom, they really didn't know. They thought we were harmless." Aurelia nodded once. "Many conquerors make that mistake. Few survive it." The intercom crackled as one of the Empire's warships attempted to hail the flagship. Aurelia gestured and the message played. The voice of a senior captain filled the command deck, thick with panic. "Admiral, our engines are offline. Shields collapsing. Every system is frozen. We request direction." Aurelia's eyes rested on the Admiral as the bridge held its breath. "You cannot command them," she said softly. "Not anymore." Something inside Admiral Khrath cracked. His posture sagged under the weight of truth he could no longer deny. He turned toward Aurelia, not with hatred but with exhausted recognition. "Then what are we?" he whispered. "Prisoners." Aurelia shook her head. "Students." A ripple of confusion passed through the room. "Humanity doesn't seek your collapse," she continued. "We seek correction. And correction only requires clarity. You have taken our children, threatened our people, violated treaties, and approached Earth as though it were prey." Her voice softened until it vibrated with dangerous tenderness. "The galaxy must learn that humans are not prey." Mia stepped to her mother's side. "So, what happens to them now?" Aurelia looked around the bridge, meeting every startled pair of alien eyes. "They return what was taken," she said. "They rebuild what they broke. And they rethink what they fear." The Admiral swallowed. "And if we refuse?" Aurelia raised her wrist. The hologram expanded again to show a simulation, a real-time projection of what Echoheart could do if she unleashed it fully. The Empire's fleet blinked out of the stars one ship at a time, elegantly dismantled without debris, each vessel folded into nothingness by algorithms too advanced for alien interpretation. It was beautiful in the way storms are beautiful, just before they swallow entire landscapes. The simulation ended. Silence swallowed the bridge. Aurelia lowered her arm. "I don't want extinction," she said. "I want understanding." For the first time since she boarded the flagship, no one contested her words. A low mechanical chime echoed through the deck. The ship itself seemed to lean toward her, awaiting her next instruction. Aurelia looked toward the twins. "It's time," she said. Mia nodded, feeling a quiet thrill in her chest. Jace stretched his arms, shaking off the last hours of captivity. Together they stepped forward. Aurelia turned back to the Admiral one last time. "Return the twins' personal effects. Release all captive humans. Issue the broadcast acknowledging your violation of intersystem law. And stand down your borders for inspection." The Admiral opened his mouth to refuse, but the ship dimmed slightly, reminding him of the world he now lived in. "We comply," he whispered. Aurelia inclined her head, satisfied. She turned toward the exit, the twins flanking her. The command deck parted for them like a tide relenting to the moon. But as they neared the doors, a warning flicker appeared across every screen, an unfamiliar signal pulsing from deep space, outside Echoheart's current reach. Aurelia paused. The twins exchanged a sharp look. Something else was coming. And it wasn't afraid of humans.